1 minute.
I'll use this 1 minute to keep entering more contests.
For what?
Everything. Hoops, college football, NFL. What could go wrong?
Plenty, but hopefully it won't.
Talk guilty.
Dude, we got the college, the bowl promo going, huh? You guys got putting in a lot of work.
Yeah, I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. I was wondering when to tweet it out and figured that 4 a.m. probably was a bad idea.
Yeah, a couple people still in bed.
Yeah, so I haven't tweeted it out yet. I thought maybe I should wait. We'll give it an hour or so because I'm going to tweet out the link for the show.
All right, let's go.
Atone.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. Easton Stick, Aiden O'Connell. This is what we all anticipated before the season began. Dude, these games are great, though. These games, last Thursday we were talking about Patriots and Steelers. Like, man, how are they going to score points? It's like 21 points in the first quarter. So things happen. Oddities occur. Regardless, a lot of money to be made today, and that's what we're here to talk about. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on Twitter, joined by Matt Gajewski at Matt_Gajewski. Busy time of year for you, man.
Yeah, exciting time of year. Love the holidays, but it is very busy with sports. You and I always say this. We love having these greasy island games for Showdown. Normal slates, we're Xing out Easton Stick, probably Xing out Aiden O'Connell. We don't have to do that. We got to break these guys down, dive into it. And I know you're a sicko like me. I watch preseason games. It might not matter for postseason. It might not matter for the Super Bowl, but Easton Stick wants to play in the NFL. He's fighting for a job. Aiden O'Connell's playing for a job. Every snap matters to these players that are on the field. They're going out there. They're trying. And I'm going to try to break down what they do. So I'm still excited for it. I like it even when it is greasy. How are you doing?
Good, man. You're right. These are fun games. I have no issues with them whatsoever. But, it goes further than just the quarterbacks. Like Keenan Allen's out, right? And then on the other side, Devontae Adams came down with an illness yesterday. He might not play. Josh Jacobs could or couldn't play. I mean, you have the coach going, if he plays, it's going to be the Josh Jacobs show, but we don't know if he's going to play. Palmer's back off the IR. Parham's questionable for whatever that's worth. But yeah, dude, it's not just the quarterbacks either. I mean, you're missing Keenan Allen. One of the maybe the leading target getter in football. I haven't looked in the past week or two. And then on the other side, you could be missing one of or both of the two top options for the Raiders offense.
Yeah, it's a wild slate. There's we'll see if we get Shefty bombs, Pelissero bombs. A lot of times they'll just tell us if a guy like Jacobs is expected to play. Honestly, it's happened on this show maybe 4 or 5 times this year. So we'll see if we get updated information. But we've also seen some of these players come down to actual legitimate pregame warmups, game time decisions, which is an interesting wrinkle to a slate like this. There's also some playing time wrinkles. Because of all the injuries, who is going to be on the field for LA? It's not just the injuries. Like Joshua Palmer's coming back, so there's moving parts in both directions where you have to really decipher this, figure out who's playing what position, what are the roles of these players. I mean, Aiden O'Connell, he might get treated like Josh Dobbs and benched in this game. So there's just so many moving parts, making this, for DFS, a really great slate. Real life, it's debatable, but for DFS, I think it's awesome.
Absolutely. This is the type of stuff I like to break down. Yeah, Aiden O'Connell's coming off of a home game where his team scored 0 points and lost by 3. Dude, they didn't score a point and they pushed on the spread.
I did not know that.
It
As
was
you can tell, I'm
3 point.
not a big NFL bettor. All I
No,
know is
but
like,
I'm saying the fact that like you don't score and you push is one of the most ridiculous things that came down to the final drive.
yeah, dude. So like on Sundays, I watch Red Zone. I usually don't have like a quad box going or something. I'm usually working and it's on in the background. And then after the early window, they start showing the scores. And I see 3-0, and it like didn't register to me when I was watching the games. It's like, holy smokes, I don't think I've seen a play of that game. And I watched Red Zone all day. Like I played DFS for it. And then it just registered 3 hours later. It's like, holy smokes, they played that whole game already, and I didn't see a single play.
I, I don't think they would have, right? Like I don't think, I think most people forgot that game was even happening. And I was hoping so bad that it would go 0-0 to overtime and then tie 0-0. Ben told me on Tuesday that a game has never gone to overtime 0-0.
I heard them say that. Like, so I don't know what I was doing on Sunday, but yeah, they did say that on a broadcast. I don't know if I was just like in one ear out the other, but I remember hearing it too.
JM said brutal game here. No, I'm telling you, man. Like, all right, fine. If the entire main slate was populated with this filth, sure, that would suck. You got to embrace these type of showdown slates. You have to, because you're going to only get more of them. You have to embrace this type of grossness. It can be fun, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You
Dude,
know,
I like all football, man. Like I watched every single snap of the USFL. I'm not kidding.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. I charted every single snap to get routes. I went to 9 high school football games this year. What?
You charted every snap to get routes run?
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude. Oh, oh my God. You know what's funny though? This total hasn't come down, even with the injuries, like before the Allen thing, before the questionable tags for the Raiders play. The total was at 34. I'm seeing it at 34.5 in some spots. So it hasn't moved. And obviously a lot of that just comes down to quarterbacks.
Yeah, and you made a good point at the top of the show where you paralleled this to the Patriots Steelers game. It's not like either of these teams has awesome defenses. I know Vegas has kind of a one-man wrecking show in Max Crosby, but dedicate some extra resources to him. It's not like you're fearful of the Vegas secondary. You're certainly not fearful of anything the Chargers have put on the field. Sometimes these bad quarterbacks with no film on them can have success, and we saw that just for reference, an anecdotal point. But yeah, Patriots Steelers, greasy shootout, that happens sometimes. And we see that in like the preseason. There's all kinds of things that happen in NFL football games. Even though these quarterbacks are bad, there's other bad parts of these teams too.
Let's do it, man. Happy to have you guys with us. If I could so humbly ask, for those of you who have yet to do so on this Thursday morning, atone for your sins and hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below if you're listening or watching after the fact. I try and read and respond to all of these guys every single week, all these shows that we do that have a bit of shelf life. And don't forget, all of this stuff available in podcast form. If you feel it's easier to listen there, maybe you're driving, want to turn the phone off, you don't have YouTube Premium, best and most free way to do it is through our podcast. Leave a rating review over there. And check out our podcast exclusive content every Tuesday. Ben and I take 30 or so minutes, break down the previous slate in like an actual way that helps you. You know, we go into the post-contest simulator, look at the type of lineup builds that are winning tournaments, that are making a difference. And then, little treat for you guys, we hit on the Saturday slate and we went back and looked at all of the other like 2 and 3 game slates that we've had this year, went back, see what type of lineups won those, and tried to apply that into everything we can do for week 15, 3-game Saturday slate as well. So if you haven't listened yet, check it out. It was a really good episode. All right, dude, let's do it. We've got the Chargers on the road. They are 3-point dogs in a 34.5 point total game. Now, Easton Stick is at quarterback for anybody that's just jumping in late. Easton Stick at quarterback, no Keenan Allen in this game, but I actually want to start in the backfield for a couple of reasons. Do they just, let Easton Stick do what at this point, I'm not sure how much it matters. Maybe it is like, just go out there and do what try and do what Justin Herbert did. And they won't try and cater the game plan at all to somebody like, to the ground game. But Austin Eckler last time out, he was in the Millie Maker winning lineup, which is pretty wild given that he had a fine but not great game. Also knowing, Matt, that we knew coming into this game that Kelly was going to get some work, that Isaiah Spiller was going to get some work, and that did in fact happen. So going into this one, how do we prioritize this backfield? How do we figure out what's going on? And last thing I'll say, despite Spiller and Kelly getting some work, Eckler still did play 72% of snaps, which is the second highest snap share he's had all season long.
Yeah, man, I don't think people might say that report was wrong, that Eckler was going to end up playing less and they wanted to test out Spiller and Kelly. They did that. It's just that Spiller and Kelly were so damn bad.
Yeah.
They had to put Eckler right back in the game.
Yeah.
And it's not like Eckler's having a good season, but I don't know, Brandon Staley, Kellen Moore, maybe this speaks to more systemic issues with your scheme and maybe your offensive line, and now you add in the quarterback. But holy smokes, I don't think the problem is Eckler at this point. I think this is just a systemic issue. And Kelly's never been good. Spiller's young in his career. Maybe he can carve out something, but I don't know. At this point, I think you've now seen those players. You just have to return to Eckler. He gives you more than those players as well. He actually has a pass game role. This is a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield. I mean, like, Kelly and Spiller are a little bigger, so maybe on like short yardage and stuff, you could throw Spiller into the game or something, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense for me to take Eckler off the field anymore. So I honestly kind of like him as a stud. If you look at just the slate overall, pretty short on studs we want to target. Honestly, I don't really care that Eckler's coming in negatively leveraged in our tools. He just provides a safety that other captains don't, unless you're talking about Devontae Adams, but even he's on the injured report. So, I mean, to me, it just comes down to, am I playing Aiden O'Connell? Probably not. He might get benched. Am I playing Easton Stick? I mean, in large field, sure, but as far as safety on the Chargers goes, does it really get any safer than Austin Eckler at this point?
Not even remotely. I don't think so. I mean, again, like you said, they did use Spiller. They did use Kelly a little bit. They had, 9 combined carries, I think, but they were wholly ineffective, number one. And again, even if they're getting used where, okay, like this is the one thing that I think is widely overlooked when people look at, snap shares or route. They look at certain things without context. Like if you're looking at routes run and you're not looking at targets per route run or all of that stuff, right? Yards per route run, any of that stuff. If you're looking at snaps, or if you're looking at rushing opportunities and you're not looking at snap count, and you're looking at snap counts and going, yeah, but they hardly played any snaps, and ignoring the fact that, like, all right, well, they didn't play a lot of snaps, but every time they were out there, they 70% of the time they were out there, they got the ball. It all works together in an instance like this. So yeah, Spiller and Kelly got some work, but Eckler still played 72% of the snaps. And, can you make, maybe the argument that you can make here is that this team has nothing left to play for and it doesn't matter anymore. And despite 72% of snaps, Eckler still only saw 17 looks, 10 attempts, and 7 targets. I don't know how much I actually care on a slate like this, though. Back to your original point, I'm not sure how much I actually care because Easton Stick, without Keenan Allen, without Mike Williams, if Eckler's on the field, at the very least, you have to pepper this guy with targets. And if you don't, I'm not really sure what the point of it. I'll put it to you this way. I'll put it as simply as I can. I don't understand what the point of Eckler playing would even be if you're not going to try and frequently and heavily involve him in the passing game.
Yeah, man, I think he's going to play. And to like the tanking stuff in the NFL, and what do the Chargers have to play for? Well, Kellen Moore is a job to play for. Brandon Staley is a job to play for. These guys are both going to get canned if they continue playing like this at the end of the year. I mean, most of these players don't have long shelf lives. Like, you need to be on the field and produce if you want extra contracts, especially, I mean, like Eckler, if he has any hope of getting like another even short extension in his career, he needs to play well. Like Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller might get cut if they continue playing terribly. They've both been awful. So it's the good and bad thing about the NFL is you can't really tank because job security is so low, which, I mean, helps kind of parity in the game. These teams are going to be trying. Very rarely do you see a team try to lose a game. As this pertains to Eckler, I think he's going to be out there in his normal role and catching balls, seeing extra work. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he has more work this week after how bad Kelly and Spiller were.
Now, we're on the same page with Eckler. Would you consider Spiller or Kelly? That's the tough part here.
Personally, I don't really see a lot of merit in it because there's other value on this slate that's pretty dang good just because of injuries. So it's kind of like an alternatives thing. On a normal slate, based on the coach speak that they were going to play where maybe I would consider them, but as far as this slate goes, I just don't see why you'd be playing either of those guys, especially with them now priced up a little bit. It's not like we're talking about a $200 value. Spiller's coming in at 3,800. That's a pretty hefty price tag. Kelly's at 68 in the flex. Like, I'm certainly not playing Kelly at that price. Spiller is more of a conversation, but even he's a little expensive.
Yeah, and Mike, you can run the Sims too and throw it up for the people watching. Maybe they're not premium subs. They can take a look and see what our early exposures are to some of these guys and what these lineups look like.
Yeah.
I'll provide a bit of a devil's advocate approach on one side, Matt. If I were to play one of Spiller or Palmer, it would be Spiller. And here's why.
Really? Over Josh Palmer?
I'm sorry, Kelly.
Oh, okay.
Spiller or Kelly. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
No, definitely not. If I were to play either Spiller or Kelly, it would be Spiller because they know, and I'm not saying they haven't seen Spiller in practice, but they know exactly what they have in Joshua Kelly. And it's nothing good, right? Eckler missed plenty of time this season, and Joshua Kelly filled in his stead and was, you remember how bad he was?
Dude, he sucked at UCLA. He's terrible.
He was so bad. So let's just say, right? Let's just say that they do go a different direction today. And like Eckler's out there, but the other running backs get additional work in a meaningless game. Not to say they're trying to lose, but that Eckler doesn't see as much work as we had hoped. I think it's Spiller over Kelly because Spiller's the type of guy that they haven't really seen like regular season games out of him, regular season workload. So if there was one avenue for it to get there as a backup, I would rather go Spiller because I think there's less of I think there's a wider path for him to see more work than Joshua Kelly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think there's two things there that are worth hitting on. He's a lot cheaper than Josh Kelly, so you don't have to make the choice, like Palmer versus Kelly. And then I think they already kind of showed this a little bit. Last week, Spiller was getting more work than I thought he would. And to your point, they've had Kelly for years now. Spiller's only in his second year, I believe. So, I mean, it's not really hopeful. He isn't shown anything in his small sample size, but at least that sample size is small and you could justify giving him more work.
Let's talk about, and by the way, I assume you're 100% fine captaining somebody like Austin Eckler today, even at negative leverage in the tools.
Yeah, for sure. And the only other thing I'll say about that is I think Adams is going to play. It's just an illness, but Jacobs, unless we get news, he's a legitimate game time decision. If Jacobs is out, I imagine Eckler's going to go into the positives for leverage.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. If Jacobs plays, I
think it would remain kind of where we're at. Jacobs has a better role, but
I would love Jacobs if he plays, man.
Same.
It's just like that team is so it's so bad. I don't understand how you 0 points in that game when you have Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams, right? Like you would think that there would at least be some way to get in field goal. Whatever. We'll get there in a minute. Anyway, talking about Easton Stick and the pass catchers that we now have to choose from for the LA Chargers. Keenan Allen is out. Mike Williams going down for the season, I think, is having a far larger effect on this team than anyone could have originally anticipated. Like having that 1-2 punch with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and then Eckler in the backfield, what a difference that has made. We've seen it with him being absent. But now you're talking about number one, Joshua Palmer, who they have priced up as a result of Keenan Allen being out. Quentin Johnston, who has been, a large disappointment all season long. Last game, okay. Before that, fine. At least he's reaching double-digit fantasy points, but on pretty underwhelming targets. And now it's Easton Stick throwing him the football. And then you're talking Jalen Guyton, who came. What was he? Was he on the IR? Was he on the IR or was he on the practice squad? I can't even remember.
Guyton was hurt to begin the year.
Yeah, right. Erickson, Demario Davis, Fajoku, like let's start at the top and work our way down, because at the very base of all this, it's still Easton Stick throwing him the football.
Yeah, and I don't even know if the best thing about Easton Stick from a fantasy perspective is his arm. This guy actually had pretty good rushing production at North Dakota State. He's also been in the NFL for a long time and somehow continued to stick on rosters. I believe this is his 5th year, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of wild. You wouldn't think that. But yeah, he's actually hung around. So apparently he's shown enough to be, at least in the eyes of the Chargers, a competent backup. And as far as like the quarterbacks on this slate go, I would certainly rather play Easton Stick over Aiden O'Connell, and that's just a job security thing combined with mobility. As far as the pass catchers, the Chargers still play fast and they throw a lot. I don't anticipate them deviating that much from the game plan, maybe a few extra runs, but they're still going to throw the ball a fair amount. And then Josh Palmer, man, I think the 3 wide receiver set is likely to be Palmer and Johnston on the outside, Erickson in the slot. Guyton, his routes were cut severely last week. And I don't know if this is an injury or whatever it is, but Guyton sort of has a similar skill set to Quentin Johnston, a boundary receiver, supposed to be a deep threat. Johnston obviously has struggled in that role, but he's still their first round rookie. They need to use him, especially with this regime likely to get canned. I mean, one way to maybe prevent that is to say, all right, like, here's what we've got. Johnston is potentially part of our future. He's not a bust. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but I don't think they can take Johnston off the field at this point. Palmer's clearly just their most talented option. And Erickson has a slot profile, which projects to be the replacement for Keenan Allen. So that's kind of how I view the Chargers right now. But do you see this any differently? Do you see Guyton getting extra snaps or anything like that? I mean, is this different in your eyes?
Well, I definitely agree that it'd be insane to pull Johnston off the field at this point. Like, this guy should be out there for every single play, every drop back at the very least. And then Palmer, before he went on the IR, he played 97 and 98% of snaps, right? 97 and 98% of snaps in week 6 and 7, got hurt in week 8. My assumption, unless something goes really sideways, is it will be him and Johnston, as you pointed out. Palmer and Johnston would you be shocked at all if it's 90+% of snaps for those guys? Because I certainly wouldn't, now that Keenan Allen's out.
I honestly think that's probably likely. Johnston's already getting that.
Yeah,
and Palmer
88% last week.
Yeah, Palmer was getting that before the injury. He's been out for a while. I don't know why you'd rush him back at this point if he wasn't fully healthy. So I'm kind of just walking into this assuming we have a fully healthy Palmer. And then with Erickson, I mean, he probably doesn't get to 90% of the snaps, but Erickson's a slot receiver by trade. That's exactly what Keenan does. Guyton is this like situational burner deep threat, sort of like an MVS skill set. So, I mean, Guyton doesn't really profile to play in the slot. I'm not the coach. Like, maybe they morph his role or something. I don't know, but I would be a little more inclined to look at Erickson versus Guyton tonight.
It's also weird, though, and just to get your thoughts on this, because we can't leave any stones unturned when it comes to these teams today, with all of the injuries and with the backup quarterbacks, just not good quarterbacks. Guyton has seen 5 deep targets, but when you look at what we've seen in him in the past, where he was kind of that guy, like, yes, 28% of his targets have been 20+ yards downfield, but man, look at the last few games. I mean, the only thing they connected on, like 1 for 8, 1 for 5, 1 for 4. It stands to he has seen him downfield. They just were unable to connect. Do you think you just get him out there for a few? Like, you think we just see Guyton running deep routes and get a few opportunities downfield and hope that it connects? Because if that's the case at 1,400, even if he's 4th in snap share and 4th in routes run, I think there's still some value there. Whereas a guy like Erickson could be out there more often, but I'm not sure he has that splash play potential.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Guyton had a pretty good snap share until last week, when they just fully went all in on Johnston, which, I mean, makes sense from a team building perspective when you look at the future. Guyton he plays his role. He does it reasonably well, but he's just not going to be like a full-time starter at any point in time in his career, whereas Johnston could be. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. This has been volatile week to week. I sort of think Guyton's floor is like 30% of the snaps, and then if Johnston does something stupid and gets benched or whatever reason, they just reconfigure their wide receiver sets when they go 3 wide. there is a chance he plays more than that. So I'm not going to X out Guyton by any means. I would rank him fourth, but he's still very cheap. He's like the same price as Erickson. This honestly could just come down to ownership throughout the day. If Erickson ends up being super owned by comparison, I will pivot more over to Guyton because it's still a volatile situation.
It's a real volatile situation. Sometimes with guys like Easton Stick, I'm just willing to pray that one of those deep balls connects. Sometimes that's the way it feels, and it's not always going to work. Sometimes it does. Shit, man. We saw Hunter Henry with what, like 2 or 3 receptions, and 2 of them were touchdowns. Certainly not saying that's expected for a guy like Guyton, but at least that, busted coverage, a defender falls or something, Guyton could be downfield. And with one game to choose from, I'm willing to broaden my horizons when it comes to who I can play.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. It's honestly kind of nice. We have 4 receivers, so there's some options here. But yeah, I kind of think Guyton's just like a better player straight up than Erickson, but it's just like their roles and skill sets. You're kind of balancing this. Do you think they just get the raw talent on the field, or do they just go to the guy who has the skill set that like mirrors Keenan Allen? And I don't have the answer to this. They're not going to tell you, so you're just going to have to make educated guesses. They're both cheap, which is kind of why I just want to spray them both into lineups.
Me too.
Like not go, I don't want to play like 100% Erickson or 100% Guyton. I'm just going to mix and match these guys and use them in a portfolio over multiple lineups.
Guyton's run 56% of snaps lined up in the slot 56% of the time this year.
Which is interesting. He doesn't profile like that. But
no.
They use Keenan in and out of the slot. You know what I mean? Like Keenan's not a 90% slot player. So also I'm not killing more. I don't know like what he sees and why he moves Keenan out or what he does or like what data or tells he uses to put Keenan in the slot versus out wide on some plays. But when Keenan's out wide, someone else has to go in the slot. But yeah, man, just so many moving parts.
Any other pass catchers here that we need to get into?
The tight ends. So Everett would be a huge beneficiary if Parham misses. I think Parham plays, but to what capacity? They had been trending towards closer to a 50-50 timeshare until the Parham injury occurred. So then you saw Everett play more snaps in their most recent game. For whatever reason, Everett just hasn't been able to carve out a full snap share. So even with Everett playing more, I still am not sure he plays more than guys like Guyton and Erickson. So he's just going to be a GPP play for me. You'll have to watch Parham. He is cheap. Like Parham is far more likely to score a touchdown than those dusty receivers. So I would have some interest in just going up to Parham to be contrarian versus playing. I mean, really either Erickson or Guyton, but this was all going to be late news. What does Parham play? What capacity? So I guess we'll find that out later. But right now, I think he does play.
All right. And yes, kickers in this game, perfectly viable. Obviously, we're not telling you guys anything you don't already know. Dicker we actually have negative leverage on Dicker. I wonder if it's just because he's 5K. But that's not a crazy price point on him.
Yeah, dude, honestly,
go ahead.
I think some of the leverage on kickers, positive or negative, just comes down to alternatives. Do you have cheap guys that are going to play the whole game? If yes, kickers are probably going to be negative. If not, they're going to be positive.
Yeah, Carlson minus 1% leverage in our top single game and showdown plays tool. Both of those guys we have Dicker 13% utility ownership, Carlson at 18%. How are you approaching defenses on a day like today? Because it's funny, if anyone had just gone into last week and blindly played defenses, like, oh, this game, a 30-point total, there's no way it can go over. Defenses are going to smash, particularly Pittsburgh. They would have been disappointed.
Yeah, for the first time all year, because if you took that strategy and played defense captains every single showdown throughout at least the island games, I imagine, be pretty profitable right now. But yeah, I mean, just contextually, this is a low total game. There's concerns on both offenses. You're obviously dealing with backup quarterbacks. There's offensive line concerns for Vegas. That could be an issue, like Colton Miller. And then on the Charger side, their offensive line hasn't been good to begin with. And Max Crosby has been wreaking havoc on the NFL. there's very clear ways you could see the defense is getting there. For me, it always just comes down to how often are they being played versus what's optimal. And honestly, on a lot of showdowns, they've, at least according to our tools, been overowned, and I've been fading them. On this slate, the Raiders are coming in with pretty positive leverage. So if the slate started right now, I would be playing a lot of the Raiders. And then the Chargers aren't that far behind them. So for defenses, volatile positions like this, I use our tools. I lean on them quite a bit. And it looks like they're going to be pretty solid plays tonight. So right now, if the slate started this moment, I would be playing a healthy amount of both defenses.
Guys, something a little exciting for you here. And I'm stoked about it starting now because Matt Gajewski's on a show with. I don't know if I've ever had somebody like individually credited for people's wins more than Matt Gajewski. And I get just randomly tagged at him because Matt and I do shows together. I do the Hall of Fame segment. But all the time, just screenshot after screenshot of college football wins, crediting Matt, crediting the projections, crediting the shows. You already heard it. The guy watched every USFL snap and charted the routes. Look, there's words to describe that, okay? If nothing else, though, it's very impressive. Very impressive stuff. That's the type of guy you want to be getting your data from if you're trying to win money. Right now, Matt, we got the promo. We got the college football bowl promo. 50% off everything for college football DFS and college basketball DFS when you use the link in the description or in chat. So what is that? That's your projections for college football, projections for college basketball, premium matchup data, usage data, everything, right?
Yeah, we do ownership for the larger slates. There's a ton of showdowns during bowl season. We won't have it for those, but yeah, you hit on most of it. Our Discord, I'm in there like 24/7, never really leave it. So if you have any questions, you can ask me personally in there too. But one misconception with like bowl season was like, oh, there's only whatever, 45 games. They're spread over like almost 45 days. There's football every single day. So it's not like you're getting 4 slates for the month. You have college football almost every single day. And then hoops is every single day if you like college basketball, which has been awesome. Very profitable so far this year. But yeah, also, like if you're just curious about these players, you love the NFL DFS, you want to get a glimpse of some of the best players in college football, play some DFS with it. We'll be attacking all the opt-outs, everything like that, having everything up to date. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be awesome. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Do you have any specific strategies for bowl season when it comes to like, yeah, there's a lot of games and a lot of slates, but shorter slates? Like, do you do anything differently? Because I know for NFL, like Ben and I just did a 3-game slate podcast. You have to approach things very differently. How much different is that for college football?
A lot of the NFL strategy, it mirrors college football. The only main difference is keeping track of the inactives is huge because there aren't regular inactive reports. Bowl season has a lot of opt-outs and the transfer portal's been bananas. I have a pinned tweet right now that updates maybe 3 or 4 times a day with every single portal departure, injury, or bowl opt-out for the NFL that is updating constantly throughout the day and will continue to do so. It's free. So if you're worried about, I don't know who's going to play in these games, a lot of guys opt out, just reference that tweet. You can sort by team and it'll help you a ton. And that's if you're not using the projections. Obviously, if you're using the projections, those will be updated right before lock and all throughout the days leading up to it, helping you decipher who's in and who's out. But that's really the only nuance that's super different from the NFL. Still have like kickers and showdown. You don't have defenses, but on the main slate, you do super flex. So you can play 2 QBs. Yeah, man. Overall, it's just a ton of fun.
Anyway, promo code is BOWL, capital BOWL. Get you in the door, 50% off everything for the entirety of bowl season, guys. It's awesome. And I can attest, this guy, there's literally nobody else you'd rather have doing college football, college basketball projections. It's that simple. Link in the description and in chat. Easiest way to get that done. All right. Let's talk about the Raiders. So I guess now we'll just operate under the assumption that Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs will play, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we can just, as we talk about those positions, we can quickly touch on like what would happen if they're out. But yeah, I think we should assume they're playing until we know otherwise.
Well, let's talk about it then. I want to actually start with those two players, just because, I mean, you can throw Jacoby Myers into the mix as well. We'll start with Jacobs, actually. We started with the backfield for the Chargers. We'll start with Jacobs. There's just a lot to be said about Jacobs in the sense of volume. Last week, we didn't see as much, only 15 overall opportunities, 13 attempts, 2 targets, which is surprising. But prior to that, 26, game like against the Jets, we saw 29, 26 against New York. There is legitimate, 25 to 28, maybe even 30 touch upside for a guy like Jacobs today. And he's still cheaper than, he's still cheaper than Austin Eckler.
Absolutely. Pass game role has been there. Their coaching staff has been vocal about just riding him regardless. Like, Josh Jacobs is the engine of our offense. Our goal is to get him 20 touches and 100 yards. We feel like our team's best chance to win is when that occurs. And some of those games you mentioned with the absurd touch counts came in negative game script, which is wild to see. Injury aside, if he was 100%, he would be the safest play on the entire slate. If he's active, I still think he's right up there with like Eckler among the safest plays. It really is just you weighing in your mind, how much does the injury limit him? Does it limit him at all? And honestly, I don't know why you'd put him out there if he was banged up or maybe not capable of handling a full workload. So I'm in on Jacobs, assuming he plays. From there, it's interesting when you get beyond that. If he's out, like, what does the Zamir and then Abdullah split look like, which would be interesting. But yeah, Jacobs active. And I also think when people come in, true game time decisions, they're clicked less often. So maybe you get some positive leverage.
I mean, at this stage of the game, right? If Zamir White and if Josh Jacobs ends up being out, then Zamir White just obviously becomes a top play. Does he not? Or would you be worried that it is in fact Amir Abdullah stealing a lot of that?
So from a price perspective, it's different because, okay, what do you think the split is first and foremost before we talk about price? Like, just raw carries, target breakdown. Who do you think would get what?
I would say with Amir Abdullah, because he is always going to see more snaps than Zamir White when Josh Jacobs is healthy. I think you would see that flip because now you have someone that needs to take over the duties on the ground, as opposed to just being out there as a pass catching back and blocking. So I would think that it's probably a pretty close split as far as snaps go, but for Zamir White to get more work on the ground and Amir Abdullah to see more of the pass catching responsibilities, which inevitably would put both of them in play. It's just like you said, you're paying for $1,800 less for White.
Yeah, I think you laid it out really well. Just from a touch perspective, I would maybe project this like 14 to 15 touches for Zamir, probably 13 of those carries. Abdullah somewhere in like the 6 to 9 touch range, maybe 4 or 5 targets. Same thing with carries. But you laid this out well because you brought in price. Jacobs is in play because he has almost 100% of the opportunities above 10K. Even if you split the backfield 50-50, both of these players are still going to project as decent values. The problem is you just have some uncertainty. You don't know how much is going which direction, and you're going to have to guess on that when you get there. I think a lot of people in this case, so just let's play the game. Jacobs is rolled out late. First of all, people will have built lineups with assuming Jacobs is in. Now you're going to have to pivot. The safer pivots are going to be the Chargers receivers. So I think more people are going to end up clicking those players, and you might end up with some solid leverage on Amir Abdullah and Zamir White for that reason, just because people don't know which one to click. They have to adjust to the news late, and you have more safety with the Chargers, but I don't know if the upside is higher. So in this instance, I plan on playing a lot of Abdullah and White, and hopefully just whatever lineup gets to the top has the right one in it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look, Josh Jacobs could just play and none of this matters. If Josh Jacobs plays, would you? I mean, I don't see how you could go to Abdullah at 4,800 if Jacobs plays.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
There's no way. I don't see, honestly, unless somehow one of these gets like one of these guys just has a rogue touchdown for the first time all season. I simply don't see why you would want to roll the dice on either of them if Josh Jacobs is in.
Correct. Nothing to add. I think you're 100% right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, Zamir White all season long, 1 or 2 opportunities per game and he's done virtually nothing with them. No, he's done nothing with them. So I'm out on that. If Devontae Adams plays, are you on board with just saying, because like with 2 bad quarterbacks, I'm so tempted to just kind of go Eckler and Jacobs and then figure things out from there. But we saw it last week. If you took that approach, Ezekiel Elliott was good, by the way, don't get me wrong. But if you took that approach and just loaded up on all running backs, and for what it's worth, you and I advocated for that. Like that's a perfectly reasonable approach. I still think it was. You run that game back 1,000 times, you're probably going to see a lot of good, better running back performances than wide receivers and pass catchers when you got Bailey Zappi and Mitch Trubisky, but other things can happen. And of course, going to have a lot of popularity for these 2 top running backs. I'm just wondering where Adams' ownership comes in today when it's like, okay, choose between, not, I guess you could play all 3 of them, but if you can't, I think people are going to be looking Eckler and Jacobs over Adams. And then you have Jacoby Myers, who's almost $3,000 cheaper. And it's not like he's been that much worse than Devontae Adams.
I've been really impressed with Jacoby Myers. And
Me too.
I'll take my L's when I'm wrong. I'm not ready to take my Tommy DeVito L. I'll sit for the remainder of the 2023 regular season and see how DeVito plays, because I don't know. I'm not there yet. Jacoby Myers, I was wrong. He was an undrafted free agent on the NC State. Did not think he was going to have this career. And dude, there are games where he plays 100% of the snaps. 100%. Underlying metrics with him are great. I think he's going to provide leverage today. So for large field tournaments specifically, he's actually a player I like quite a bit here. And he's pulling our 2nd highest leverage score, which really surprised me. So large field stuff, love Jacoby Myers. Honestly, okay captaining him too. For smaller field stuff, I'll just take the safety of Adams. O'Connell has locked in on him recently, which has been solid. I mean, efficiency is always going to be up and down when you have basically you could call him a 3rd string quarterback if you want, backup quarterback. I don't know if he's behind or ahead of Hoyer. Anyway, that does kind of cause efficiency to ebb and flow, but I still think Adams is safer than Myers. But honestly, they're both on the field drawing targets. I'll take stabs at both of them.
Me too. It's funny because I think it's similar ownership and they are pretty closely owned. I think I might lean Jacoby Myers over Adams here, especially Adams dealing with an illness. Like, look, he does get targeted a ton. Don't get me wrong, but Jacoby Myers, it's not like he doesn't get any looks whatsoever. At that discounted price point with Aiden O'Connell throwing him the football, yeah, the volume of targets is really important, but that is a cheap price. Let me put it to you this way. If I have a lineup that I love, but I can't really make it work, and it means that I have to go from Adams to Jacoby Myers, I don't have any issues with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. No issues on this side either.
Once you get past these guys, though, because all of them are in play, right? Like, we're not telling you guys anything you don't already know. Eckler, with no Keenan Allen, obviously, but Adams, Eckler, Jacobs, Jacoby Myers, all of those guys are great. Then, yes, Joshua Kelly is the de facto wide receiver 1 here. Quentin Johnston's going to be out there a ton. Those are pretty much all of the guys, in my opinion, Matt, not including Easton Stick and Aiden O'Connell by default, because they're the quarterbacks in a showdown game. Those are all of the guys that you say, yes, totally understand it. They're going to be on the field a ton. They're going to get opportunities. Once you get past that, though, is where it starts to get a little bit grim, because you're talking Hunter Renfrow. Behind Renfrow, I mean, what are you really getting there? Last game, you saw Adams and Myers play the entirety of the game. They played all but 1 snap each. Renfrow played around 50% of snaps. And then Trey Tucker and DeAndre Carter combined for 5 snaps. You saw Michael Mayer play 94% of snaps. Austin Hooper, 37. So there's a bunch of 12 personnel. But I don't even know if there's a wide receiver 3 here that I have interest in, unless you're just going, well, Hunter Renfrow has done nothing all year, but he's there. But he's $4,000.
Yeah, just pivot down to Mayer, cheaper price tag. You save $800 in the flex, and Mayer's more involved, just straight up. Receiver, tight end, doesn't matter. Remove the position designation. Mayer's your better price adjusted play. Now, again, there's always I'm playing large field tournament. Do I just spend the $800 on Renfrow for leverage? And that's a viable situation, or I guess a valuable strategy you can use. But man, Mayer projects so much better than Renfro just straight up at a cheaper price.
Without question. By the way, the link wasn't for some reason in the description for 50% off the whole bowl season plus college basketball, all the projections in college football. It's in there now. You'll see it 50% off college football and college basketball if you were wondering where that was. And Mike threw it into chat as well. So yeah, man. Okay. Let me rank these guys real quick for the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, number one. Aiden O'Connell's kind of in a tier of his own because he's playing every snap. Unless, like you said, he gets benched for Brian Hoyer. At this point, I don't know. But Josh Jacobs, I'd still go Adams and then Myers. And then Michael Mayer, I think, is perfectly reasonable, despite not getting a lot of targets. Michael Mayer, 94% of snaps. Like, honestly, I think he's a very good play just because he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, agreed. His opportunities have been rising too. He is a young player. We're talking about a rookie tight end. Sometimes it takes them some time. Not everyone's Sam Laporta. Most of them are not. But the alternatives are just so weak. Renfro, Hooper, Tucker. So at this price point, he's honestly probably the safest guy because the Chargers, you still have to worry about Guyton versus Erickson. Like which one of them plays. Parham's injured. I think Mayer's just going to be out there the most out of any of these cheap guys. So he's my favorite value. Honestly, if you consider him a value at 3,200, I realize some lineups you might need to go closer to 1,000. But yeah, if you have the salary, I like him quite a bit.
Favorite value on the slate on the game or on the Raiders?
I think on the game, like just I'm talking about guys like below 4K.
Yeah, of course. For me, it would be Michael Mayer, or I think I would probably go Guyton number 2, just knowing he can take the top off, even though it's disgusting. It is, man.
It's all gross. Disgusting. Erickson's disgusting too.
I was going to say, yeah, you could go Erickson. I get it. We have him positively leveraged 7%, as a matter of fact. And I understand it because he's going to be on the field more, but, the upside there, maybe I'm looking at it wrong though, Matt. Maybe we're not chasing upside. Maybe we're just chasing guys that don't get goose eggs, right? Like maybe we're just chasing the 8-point game will get us there on a slate like tonight. It is entirely possible for the cheap guys.
For sure. And I understand why you'd think that with Erickson, but man, this guy stinks.
I know. I know, man. It's not good.
I can't believe, dude, the guy's older than me. I can't believe he's still playing in the NFL at this point. Is he
really?
He went to Wisconsin, where I went. So watching a lot of Badger games when I was in school, very, very familiar with Erickson's game. Yeah, man, when he popped up for like 60% of the routes last week, I was like, there's no way. They couldn't find somebody better than this guy to play 60% of the snaps, but hey, here we are.
Yeah. What does it matter at this point, I guess? Got smoked on the road by the Broncos. Oh, let's build a lineup, man. Unless you've got anything else for the Raiders.
No, I don't think so. Max Crosby should have a field day. So if you want to play the defense, completely fine there. But yeah, Raiders, obviously watch live before lock. There's more news on today's slate than really any slate I can remember this year outside of maybe like an Aaron Jones slate. But yeah, it's going to be key, especially if we don't get a Pelissero or a Shefty bomb.
Oh, one more thing. I was excited to tell you about this. On Tuesday, Ben and I were talking underdog. God, just every fucking person on Twitter. It's, here's my advance rate. Here's my advance rate. Here's my advance. Yeah, it's everywhere, right?
I have it muted, so I didn't see any of it. Oh, it was great.
Mine was quite good. I just had no reason to tweet. It's like I know I tweet that nobody actually cares what my advance rate was. I'll let you know if I get any to the finals. But Ben actually won. Ben's never done a best ball draft. I convinced him that we are going to do some of these playoff best ball drafts, and I'm hoping I can get you in on the action with us to maybe do a show or two. I think it'd be a lot of fun having a guy that's never done a single best ball draft before in Ben, get him in on the action and see how he likes it.
I think he would like it. Ben's just a sports degenerate like you and me. So what's not to like about it? Especially the extra strategy you have with the playoff format where you have to worry about how many games players are actually going to be in the field for. I love it. I think about it a lot, probably more than I should during the day. So, dude, I think about this all the time. It's unbelievable. It
And you know
probably
what
says
else?
something about my brain.
Ben will get a $100 first match deposit bonus if he signs up on Underdog, Matt. He'll also get a free square in their pick'em contest where you can 20x your entries. Can't beat that. $100 first match deposit bonus immediately. You put $100 in, you got 200 now. So if you're Ben Rasa and it's a $25 contest, you might have had 4 entries. Now you've got 8 entries. Sounds good to me.
What's not to like? Who doesn't want to do more drafts? Who?
And have more free money in the process.
Absolutely. More drafts that you're not paying for. Even better. It's the best case scenario.
Daily drafts, best ball drafts, best ball playoff, $1.5 million prize pool, pick'em contest for those of you guys who aren't located in legal states to bet, but you want to scratch that itch. All of that at Underdog. Link in the description and chat. All you do, click the link. You don't need a promo code. Click the link. You'll get up to $100 first 100% match bonus up to $100 immediately. Even if you have 20, it's now 40. You'll get a free square when you enter those pick'em contests, which already just boost your ROI, your EV significantly. And you get to jump in some contests as Matt and I are going to get Ben in, rope him in and do some of these. Hopefully one of us takes it down. 150K up top, pretty nice flat payout structure. I prefer that so much more than like $1.5 million prize pool, Matt, and then $1 million to first place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm always looking for it. I know the 1 million to first, 100K to second sells.
Yes.
People want the $1 million prize. They want the lottos, but I mean, you want to realize your expectation at some point and not have to play for hundreds of years to realize it. So yeah, I'm with you on the flat payouts.
Anyway, check it out, guys. You will love it. Guaranteed you'll love it. Link in the description and in chat for Underdog Fantasy. Get that bonus, get that free square. All right. Mike, pull the Sims up before we build a lineup. There's a couple things I want to take a look at. And of course, NBA strategy show coming up right after this at 10 Eastern right here on the channel. So do not go anywhere. Do you have any guesses as to what our highest exposures are, Matt, before we go to the tape?
Honestly, no. I'm very curious to see where the exposures come in. If I had to guess, I would say our most owned captain is Shavonte Adams or Josh Jacobs because of the value. But if you told me we were getting captains like Myers or Johnson, I wouldn't be that surprised either.
Mike, do me a favor for a second. Go into ROI boost, and I think something was run wrong with our ownership and projections for Zamir White. There may have been something accounting for the Jacobs injury that just got wonky. Go into ROI boost, go to Zamir White, and like de-boost him 1,000,000%.
In flex and captain.
Yeah, both of them. Just get it down as far as de-boost, negatively boost as far as you can here. Just get them all the way down. Yeah. Are we doing that?
Yep.
Yeah, just keep going. And we want him completely out. And then we'll see what these lineups look like. At least now we'll get the update obviously throughout the day. Matt and I will build our own lineup in a second. That's good. That's good. So let's just do that and then see what we get, because my expectation, who did you say you think would be most at captain?
I think it'd be some combination of Adams or Jacobs.
Based on our numbers, I think you're right that it won't be a lot of Eckler. Would you manually adjust Eckler here in the Sims tool?
Oh yeah.
You would?
I would definitely bring him up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would too. Just based on what we were saying. I'm curious to see, do we get any spiller? Like, where is all the value we're getting? Mike, hit ROI boost. Hit boost ROI down at the bottom. I want to see what these look like. All right. And then sort again. Sort by simulated ROI. Favorite 150. And then let's see. Yeah, we're still getting. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this because Josh Jacobs is projected in. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Go to exposures. Let's just see. I think we got enough of him out of there.
yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Because he's in our top place, but Zamir White is the most negatively leveraged player in the world. So there's something on the back end.
something on the, yeah, all right, screw it. Anyway, I just like to showcase a tool that has done us. Eitan Shander doesn't know DFS, self-proclaimed non-sharp, and took down like $5,500 just hitting run sims on the Sims tool last week for a showdown slate. And matter of fact, I think it was for Monday. He took down 5,600, chopped first place in the play action, took one of the top spots in the main one, and he played like $80, Matt. So I mean, if that's not an indication of what it can do, I don't know what is.
Yeah, man, I think the biggest thing it does is remove your bad lineups you would be creating either with an optimizer or just by hand. So like everything you put in now, if you're using the sim, is live, which is crazy. And then I really like to use the ROI boost for situations that are volatile, whether it's Coach Beaker changing roles. So players, I mean, like Devontae Adams, I'm not going in there and changing him. We know what Devontae Adams is going to do. But like Eckler, if you have a take on whether Spiller or Kelly plays more, or Eckler maybe plays more after those two face planted, that's where I like using the ROI boost on the uncertain situations where people believe one thing's going to happen, but maybe something else occurs. So just to kind of take you behind the curtain. That's what I like doing.
Absolutely. Link down there. As you guys know, any package, weekly or monthly, you're looking to get, just an incredible tool. And we've been seeing people crush with that and the cheaper lineup generator lately as well. If you ever have questions, you can hit me up in Twitter at Lafayette_D. My DMs are always open. All right, let's build a lineup here before we go. Matt, where do we want to go at captain?
The world is kind of ours. I was building this morning and I didn't have any trouble jamming in the expensive captains. So I would like to start with Jacobs. Assuming he plays, obviously.
Yeah, assuming he plays. For those of you that jumped in late, Jacobs is questionable. Adams is questionable. Keenan Allen is out. Herbert's on the IR, obviously. We'll go Jacobs. I'm going to throw Eckler in. Let's see what we can do with the two top running backs.
Okay, I love this. I still think we have room for one more stud. Still want to play one quarterback. I kind of like using stick with Eckler and seeing what we can do from here. But tons of value, no issues getting another
I like
stud.
that. I like that. Okay. If we fade Aiden O'Connell, what if we were to fade Adams and Myers in this lineup, but go with Josh Jacobs and Michael Mayer and play this under the kind of working under this assumption that like Jacobs just has the huge game and nobody else does anything big in the passing game, but Michael Mayer just enough at a dirt cheap price point.
I love Michael Mayer. I don't care what kind of construction you build. He's going to fit in almost everything. As long as he continues playing all the snaps, he's going to be an absolute volume guy. So at this price, he's my favorite value.
We have 5,500 per player over the last two remaining. There's kickers, there's defenses out there. There's other pass catchers for we probably want one pass catcher for the Chargers, not named Eckler.
Yeah, I was going to throw Guyton in. And when you were talking about Mayer and saying we don't need to play Myers or Adams, I was going to say, if you play Mayer and Guyton, like you're going to have some decisions with some very expensive good players. So let's throw Guyton in and see what we can get.
Oh, this gives us literally anyone but Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is awesome.
Both quarterbacks.
This gives us anybody we want but Devontae Adams. Who do you want here to round it out at 9,700?
I would probably just take Myers, safest guy up here. But if you're in a large field tournament, wouldn't hate going all the way down to Palmer. But Myers is my favorite.
Okay. I kind of love the idea of going to Josh Palmer there, leaving 3,500 on the table, because on a slate like this, you can leave money on the table and you're not hurting yourself one bit.
No, I imagine when you run the Sims, you're going to see quite a few lineups that have a lot of salary on the table, and they're not going to project that much worse than lineups that fill out the salary, because this isn't an efficiently priced slate. This is an injury-riddled slate where players are in full-time roles at prices that are too cheap because of it. So leaving salary on the table, actually a really good idea today.
Appreciate you guys hanging out. Hey, don't knock the slate. This will be a fun one, and I know you guys are going to be watching regardless. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski on Twitter. Particularly, college football, college basketball stuff. Like we said, 50% off the entire college football bowl package, which includes college basketball projections as well. 50% off, link down there. And that's going to go through, what is that? How many days you said?
You get a full month. The promo ends on the 21st. So you got a full week to do this. Try to time it out so you get that first round of bowl games this weekend. But yeah, you've got a week to take advantage of it. And then you're going to have every single bowl, which includes the playoff and the national championship. And there's huge contests for those as well as the weekend slates.
Hell yeah, man. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you back here for the next one. I guess Monday Night Football. Good luck tonight. We'll see you soon.